needs to be attended to before the actual meeting begins. Judge Browning, do you care to go ahead and take care of that?
I will. Mr. Edwards, you want to come forward?
We can keep talking all day. You're right.
And if you would raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear or affirm
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government
the Constitution and government
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified
that I will qualified
to hold office
to hold office
under the
under
Constitution
the Constitution
of the state,
of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully
and I will well and faithfully
perform the duties of
perform the duties of
school board member
school board member
for the Levy County School Board,
of the Levy County School Board,
upon which
upon which
I am now about to enter.
I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
God bless you. Congratulations.
We'll allow about 2-3 minutes for pictures and
somebody out
kisses
there
and hugs and all that stuff. So, Mr. Edwards, if you want to make yourself available out there to mom, dad, the rest of the pictures.
Picture with your family. What you mean? Take a little claim. See, I'm out there wanting money.
Ain't nobody jumping out.
You want the judge to step out and just be with family?
I get a lot of that.
I'm sorry, I was waiting for you to know. Thank you, appreciate it.
Family, y'all are obviously welcome to stay, rest of the meeting, whatever, or make your exit. That has happened before also.
Fast, Judge.
You owe me for that one, Frank.
It's been a long time.
You owe me for that
But
one.
I remember. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Browning, too. We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Now, at this point in time, the meeting will come to order. Mr. Superintendent, you will offer our education and safety.
Our Father, we are so grateful for all the blessings of life. We're thankful for the opportunity to be here this evening to make decisions that will be in the best interest of our communities and our faculty and staff and parents and students. May we have the wisdom to make the best decisions possible. Be with us throughout this evening. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. Item D, adoption of the agenda. Prior to doing that, for good cause, the chair requests that the agenda be amended as follows. Insert, if you will, please, the letter O. I'm sorry, insert the letter P after the letter O, which reads executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second for amending the agenda. the agenda. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. The agenda has been amended to the superintendent. Now, across the crowd, we have a number of people out there, and we're part of the agenda that indicates we welcome you as visitors, that you came this evening. If anyone has anything that they would like to bring before the board that is not on the agenda, now's the time to do so, please. Ms. Carter. And normally when we do this year, we're past 3 minutes, so we usually allow. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, board members. And this is a real board meeting. I'm glad to see so many people here tonight. Last Monday, we had an insurance committee meeting, and that is the reason for my speaking to you today. I was very shocked at a huge increase that we're looking at. And I think everyone was shocked by the claims we had in the last months of summer. And I feel like that has changed the playing field. We had really collaborative, cooperative, I thought, negotiations. We bargained in good faith, and we closed negotiations for compensation for this school year. However, that was before we knew that we might be looking at a 24%, possibly a 24% increase to the insurance premium. And in that event, I mentioned that we should go back to the table at the insurance committee, and that was not met with a mutual desire, I don't think. I didn't get an answer that was no, but I did send an email on Wednesday that I did CC to everyone here tonight, I believe, that we really think that it would be in the best interest of all involved, and it would be the right thing to do to go back to negotiations to talk about cost share. So that's basically what I would like to say. Also, I've talked to a lot of employees that have said that they're going to have to dump the insurance, that they can't afford it, and for some of our lower paid employees, it's not affordable. There's a penalty for not offering an affordable health care plan. If they are within the 400% of the federal poverty line, then you have to have 9.5%, less than 9.5% towards insurance. So
Ms.
it
Ward,
may be a
if
problem.
I may respond to that, we certainly know what the laws and rules are. You know?
Yeah.
Okay. And in your Wednesday email requesting opening of the negotiations, when do you think we would have had time to discuss that with the board prior to tonight? We haven't. And so your last email, which you encouraged people to be here, that's great, that's fine, I'm glad they're here. But the connotation was that they needed to be here before we could even talk to the board about the increase. We haven't even approached the board about what the increase might be, what they want to do, what their desires are. So I think that you are putting your cart before your horses.
I am happy to hear that. I urge you, if you've not made your decision, to consider.
They haven't heard it yet this morning. They had no idea at this point in time.
Well, in the past, when we've opened negotiations, it didn't necessarily have to be at a school board meeting, but you're saying it has not been considered.
I'm saying that we always get the board's direction on what they want to do with the insurance, and that has always been a practice.
So I'm here to urge you to make a decision that we can return to the negotiation table, since the playing field really did change for us.
Well, whether that decision's made or not, or whether they make a decision on what they want to do with the insurance would be, an option that they would. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you again all for being here. Item F on the agenda, Alcohol Disabilities Awareness Week. Chairs available now up front, gentlemen.
Justin,
Justin.
if y'all would like to sit down, y'all make me nervous.
I'm aware of at least one of you that is not used to coming to the front row back in the school days. I think I heard a couple of teachers back in those days say, Justin, you need to come up front where I am.
Let me pull this desk right in time.
All right, Dr. Hall, sorry.
That's fine. Good evening, board members, Chairman Rick Turner, Mr. Hastings, our superintendent, board attorney David Delaney, guests and colleagues, and a special welcome to our newest board member, Mr. Etheridge. We're so happy to have you. It is with great pleasure that I stand before you in celebrating Disability History and Awareness Week, October 1 through 14, 2015. Our board members, you have a copy of the PowerPoint, it's very brief. You also have a copy later on of an open house that occurred on Sunday in celebration during this time of Disability Awareness Week. Our schools have been participating and engaging their staff and students in an array of activities during this time of celebration. And those things include daily announcements at their schools with disability facts, as well as incorporating disability history within their content area. Backed by popular demand, this year our department once again has sent each day a quote as well as a fact and questionnaire for our audience here is aware, as well as our school staff. Each day they're given a trivia question that relates to Disability History Awareness Week. And so the first person who responds to that trivia question each day is afforded a $25 voucher that they can use at our approved vendor to purchase classroom materials. We're running that each and every day. Tomorrow is the last day. And each of our winners' names will be put in a hat for a grand prize. If you recall, in previous years, we've done things as well as smart boards for that winner, to iPads for the classroom setting to work with students. This year, due to reducing funding is always a concern. So this year, the winner will receive something very nice, but not quite as expensive, but something they can use in the classroom with their teachers. The winner will be announced on Thursday, so stay tuned. So, to set the tone for this special occasion, I have a brief video that was sent to me by the Department of Education that I'd like to share with you.
I was out of town attending a wedding for the weekend, and the morning of the wedding I woke up and I knew something was different in my ear. I knew things didn't sound quite right, but I didn't realize the extent of my loss until I went to work Monday morning, and I picked up the phone on my desk and put it to my ear, and I thought my phone was dead. So I changed hands to hit some buttons, and when I put it to my other ear, I could hear the dial tone, and I realized at that point there was a serious problem.
Well, I say that growing up, my biggest challenge was being able to communicate. I had trouble communicating with people in a way that they could relate to. My challenge was because I couldn't understand what it's like to see fully, and being able explain the difference and how it was different for me. I believe going up with the challenges that I faced, I believe that I've become a very effective self-advocate. It was very important to have my parents and others in my life who were really good educators, and I was able to learn from that experience to be as a self-advocate. I believe it's being a good teacher, helping people to learn, and I think the best teachers are the ones that spend extra time with you. They help you learn the material. They use humor. They're engaging in terms of the way they do their instruction.
Broke my neck twice. First in 1983, as I was trying to walk away from the schoolyard fist fight. I was thrown down on the ground to start it, and instantly became a quadriplegic. 15 years later, having then excelled at the adaptive way of life, put the anger, the frustration, the barriers, the disappointments behind me, I was completing my doctorate here at Florida State, and I went through the windshield, breaking both legs, my shoulder, and my spinal cord for the second time, while I was the voting member on the Student Board of Regents, which is now the Board of Governors, back in 1998.
The most challenging part is speaking and make people to understand what I'm saying to them. People may be surprised that I'm an artist and I like to draw. I enjoy playing sports, including basketball, cross country, track, and play video games. When people having disabilities, they are still people.
I see approximately a pinhole in my left eye. My doctor describes it as an island of vision on my left eye, and it's actually at a tilt, so I can't look forward at something. I have to look off to the right to see something in front of me. And then I have no other vision in the rest of the eyes, both of them, and I cannot really control the eye muscle, so where you could tell your eye to look over to the left at something and tell your eye to look up and look down, I can't tell my eyes to do that. They do what they do. So for that reason, I see either up, either down, either left, or either right, never the entire picture. And I thought that life was over and that all these doors were going to be closed and I could no longer plan for the future like I wanted to plan. But little did I know that I was going to be able to do a whole lot more than what I thought at the beginning.
I was born without my right arm and right leg due to amniotic band syndrome. Amniotic band syndrome is something that happens when the baby's in the placenta. It's an amniotic sac that's filled with amniotic fluid, and sometimes the fibers of the sac break off. So at my first ultrasound, I had all 4 of my limbs. And then when I was born, I came out with my right leg above the knee and my right arm above the elbow. My family members don't treat me any differently. If they wanted to, I probably wouldn't let them. I don't really ever ask for help, only because this is all I've ever known, so I've never really needed help to do things. I can tie my shoe, I can button buttons, I can tie aprons behind my back. I've learned all of these things because I don't want to burden someone else, which I don't think they would think I was burdening them, but I like being independent and I like being able to do anything unassisted.
I was in the Marine Corps in 1967 in Vietnam and was doing scouting ahead and got hit with a booby trap and had multiple injuries, including losing my sight. Probably the most challenging part is getting used to, over the years, of wanting to get more done, more accomplished, and knowing it takes you more time and you have to go about things a little differently.
the adults as well as the student in this video that just like our adults, our students are faced with challenges each and every day, but they find ways to overcome those challenges with support of everyone in this audience, to my left, my colleagues, and of course our board members and our superintendent who support us so each and every day in what we do for our children in Levy County Schools. Take a moment, you have a copy of the PowerPoint. We're going to take just a stroll, not very long, but just a stroll down memory lane in regarding the history of disability and where we've come and where we are currently. So, Florida statute put into place in 2008 that requires every district in the state of Florida to celebrate, to teach our young people as well as our adults and colleagues about Disability History and Awareness Week. So the first 2 weeks in October each year, we celebrate Disability History Awareness Weeks. In 1960, our first bureau chief, and he's still alive, he lives in Tallahassee, Dr. Landon Stedler, was our first bureau chief in special education. In 1965, the Bureau of Education for the Handicapped created what we know today as OSEP. We use a lot of acronyms in education, but OSEP is Office of Special Ed Programs, and currently that is held by Dr. Melody Musgrove. In 1975, students with disabilities fell under the enactment of Public Law 94-142, and today that is known as IDA, Individual Disabilities Education Act. Fast forward to the 21st century, 1997, IDA was reauthorized to include students with disabilities in state as well as district-wide assessments, and requires that transition planning begins at the age of 14 to prepare our children for life after high school. In some states, you would note that transition planning happens at age 16, but you know that our students can be served until through their age of 21. So the sooner the better to prepare our young people, because we know many times they need more time. It's not because they can't do, they just need more time to prepare for that transition period. So the state of Florida has taken the stand that at age 14, we'll start having those conversations with our local communities and agencies set forth that can support our children upon graduation. 2001, we learned all about McKay scholarships. And so this allows parents to make choices for their students, so if they choose to, that students can attend private schools on the McKay Scholarship. In that same year, this law required all students, including students with disabilities, to be proficient in reading and math. And that would have been last year, 2014. That has been a challenge not only for students with disabilities, but it's also been challenging for all of our students because we're not there yet. We're working diligently here, but we're not there yet. But that was the intent and the expectation in 2001. 2004, IDA was reauthorized, and it changed the accountability at the state and local level. And we were the first state to put into place that requires self-determination instruction as part of our students' curriculum. That we teach our students how to self-advocate. We teach our students how to make decisions, to make good choices, to tap into their local resources. All of those things that we know are really good, not just for students with disabilities, but it's also good for all students to have these skill sets when they leave us. 2006, the state of Florida put into place the Alton assessment. Before that time, our students would take district assessments, but there was no state assessment. So when the FCAT came along, we knew that we needed to raise the bar for our students with disabilities, and this Alton assessment is only for, as you see, our most significant cognitive disabled students, not all of our students with an IEP, small percentage. In Levy County, that's approximately 48 students out of the whole that are administered the Alton assessment. That came about in 2006. In 2007, we all know about the Pell Grant. It's still afforded to everyone that chooses to go to college or university. But we also put into place for students that have intellectual disabilities to also be afforded the right to apply and to obtain the Pell Grant. In 2015, the same population of students that I spoke to earlier, that 1%, the state says to all of the districts in the state of Florida that we are not to exceed 1% of our total student population. So for Levy County, no more than 50 students or less should be taking the alternate assessment, and these are students that are significantly cognitively disabled. So in 2015, the state decided that we would have one diploma. Prior to that, we had special diploma for students that were significantly cognitively disabled. So June 2015, to be exact, June 20th, all of our students who entered 9th grade last school year, 2014-2015, are pursuing a standard diploma. Now, this population of students, their curriculum is different than your 99% of your students in Levy County. They have what's called access point courses. It gives this population of students access to the Gen Ed standards. So if you go to CPLOMS, you'll see all of our Florida standards, and you'll also see a link that will take you to the access points. So you'll see what everyone else is having or required to do, the rigor for 99% of our students, and then you'll see the rigor for the most significant cognitive disabled population. Just like we require end-of-course exams, we also require end-of-course exams for this population as well. It looks different, of course it will. These are your most severe students in our district, and in other districts as well in the state of Florida. So everything that we do in the Gen Ed world, we have cloned, we have modeled, we have taken on that same requirement for this population as well. And I would tell you, when we started having this conversation at the state level about this one diploma for all, we found, because we surveyed all other districts as well, all other states as well, and very few states even had what we call a special diploma. So when they compared the state of Florida to other states, it was like comparing apples to oranges, because other states have one diploma as well. But the diploma requirement was very different for this population. So it made sense that we start comparing our state to other states with like-sized students and the same kind of diploma. 2015-16, where we are today. On our IEP, our students with disabilities who have IEPs, there's an additional requirement now by state statute. Now there's a statement that we have to include Career and Professional Education Digital Tools Certificates, known as CAPE. And we have to make a note of, if there is a CAPE program that our students may be wanting to seek, you have to make a note of that on the IEP and provide the appropriate services and support for our students. And it's not just for secondary. I made a note of that because many times we think of CAPE and our career technical education is only for secondary students. The law says we're going to start having those conversations with families even as early as grade school, in elementary school, preparing our young people for life after high school. So what type of support do we have available in Levy County? We know about accommodations, and accommodations, we sometimes use that term interchangeably with modifications. We don't change the expectations for our students, but we may look at how we approach and what level of support we provide students. What are the accommodations? What do we do to level the playing field for our students? So that's what we have available to us. Instructional strategies. We talked a lot in previous conversations about UDL, Universal Design for Learning. Now I'm speaking about disabilities, but UDL is about all children. Strategies to promote, encourage engagement of our students, finding multiple ways to teach students. We can't have one way of delivery fits all kids that come before us. As classroom teachers, and we have many in the audience today, You know all about how to differentiate, how to meet kids where they are, how to provide those tools to them so they can show you what they know. And it may not be a pencil paper test, right? It may be that the student can articulate. It may be the student give you a project, a hands-on task or activity to show that they know and they have met proficiency for that given standard. That's what UDL is all about, and UDL is about all students, not just students with disabilities. Digital materials, known as NIMAS, we have a free membership. Some places not so much, but we have a free membership for students who may have a print disability, that we can provide their curriculum in digital format. The Bureau of Exceptional Education and Student Services, known as BEAS, they have an array of what we call, discretionary projects. There's close to 100 of them. And they all serve a specific purpose and support to school districts at no cost to us. And I would tell you, I utilize every discretionary project as we need to because it's a free service. It's paid for, supported by Department of Ed. And these are just some of the discretionary projects that we utilize here in Levy County. It is not an exhaustive list. I'm just highlighting those that we use frequently. Fiddlers, Technology and Learning Connections, Center for Autism. We have an agreement with CARD and have had an agreement with CARD since I arrived in Levy County in 2004. They come to our district once a month, free of charge, provide support to our classroom teachers, provide support to our administrators in working with students with autism. And if you know anything about autism, you know that one student doesn't look like another child. They come with different strengths and weaknesses or areas that they need to improve. CARD comes, they're one of the professional development. They work with families. They reach out to our families. Families go to their office in Gainesville. It's an ongoing relationship that we have with them, and I'm so happy that we still continue that collaboration. SEDNet. SEDNet works with, and we are the physical agents for SEDNet and have been for about 4 or 5 years now. We have about 19 SEDNet organizations throughout the state of Florida, and we're one of those 19. And they come and they work alongside our schools as well. We have students who come to us who are struggling behaviorally. SEDNet can reach out beyond our students with disabilities. We have students that come to us from homes. They need a lot of nurturing. They will reach out, the staff, and work alongside those students as well. Not just our students with disabilities, but look at all students. Being proactive, intervening early. And a lot of our kids come and they need a lot of support, as well as their parents. Positive behavior support. 9 of our 12 schools are school-wide positive behavior support schools. It's research-based, it's nationally known. They have a project in St. Pete. They come, they do training for our school staff. There are monthly webinars. They send an array of resources. If you just go and Google positive behavior support, you will see that project. That's supported by the Department of Ed. Project 10. Project 10 works alongside us for transition services. One of the best things they've done for us at my request, and other districts are asking for the same. In our district, just like any other district, we want kids to graduate. If we lose one student, that's one too many. Project 10 took our information, worked with NEFAC, gave our high schools a list of their students, credits, where they stand, what we need to do, identifying the students that may be just on the borderline of maybe not graduating on time or not. Because you know that our school grades are based on the cohort. It starts at the cohort when they enter 9th grade. So we don't want to lose kids along the way. So they developed a spreadsheet, and our guidance counselors love it because they can look at it at a snapshot. They can see what kids are on track. Those kids that are not quite on track, but there's still time to find ways to help them graduate on time. And those kids that are really struggling. And so we put that in place last year at the request of our guidance counselors. They've asked for it each year. One of our schools wanted to start with 9th grade cohort instead of waiting to the 11th and 12th grade, because the sooner we catch them and provide support, the more chances we are of helping them to graduate college and career ready. Access Project, that is a project that works alongside us in helping our teachers learn what the access points are, what does it look like in a classroom setting, how to unpack those standards, what does it mean, the curriculum, making sure that the curriculum aligns with the standards, and of course the assessment, being the ultimate assessment, aligns with the curriculum and standards for that 1% students. Florida Inclusion Network, FIN. FIN has worked alongside many of our schools in this district and looking at our best practices for inclusive settings. We know that inclusion is the buzzword, has been for many, many years. We also know that we have to look at individual students, that sometimes not every child needs to be included in every classroom setting because it may not be appropriate. So we have an array of delivery models and we have a continuum of services. And then our local assistive technology specialists, again, we are the fiscal agent, we being Levy County, that's LAST. I have a person that I share with 6 other districts. She works closely with schools and school teams and students, ensuring that we are exhausting our list to provide the necessary support and services to our students. And of course, everything that we do is all about preparing our students to be college and career ready. One thing I want to point out is that we have several universities in the state of Florida that have programs specifically for our most significant cognitive disabled students. And these are students that you would see and think, they could never go to college. But college for them looks very different than college looks for each of us. One of those universities is University of North Florida. We have University of St. Pete, University of South Florida, St. Pete, Santa Fe College, right in our back door. They have a special program for students with significant cognitive disabilities. And there's been a lot of conversation at the state level in requiring all universities and colleges, if they're accepting federal funds, to have a program for our students. University of North Florida was the first university to come on board several years ago in collaboration with community support as well as agencies in Jacksonville to bring these population of students together. They live on campus, they attend classes, they have mentors. It's a beautiful thing. So sometimes we think of college, we think of just certain kinds of students, our scholars, our merit, but even our 1% children, as I refer to them. There's hope for them, there's support out there for them, and I will tell you, Levy County does a really good job in supporting our students. When we say all, we really do mean all. Once upon a time, we should say all and students with disabilities. Now we say all, and it really does mean all of our students. We're all responsible for the learning of every child that comes to our district. So that's just a quick snapshot of the history of where we've been and where we are. And so now I want to take the opportunity to bring to the podium Ms. Mika Vuto. Now Mika is not only a parent of a student with a disability, but she's also a teacher in Levy County. More specifically, she's a teacher in Yankee County. This is her first year with us, and I will tell you that she has learned the Levy County way, the way I did in 2004. She has hit the road running. Mika is going to also share with us a grand event that occurred this past Sunday. You have a flyer of the event that occurred on Sunday. There was an open house in Gainesville called Gigi's Playhouse. Many of our district staff, our school staff, we even had our city manager, Mr. Scott Lipman, I met. On Sunday, he was there for the open house and the ribbon cutting. And Mika's going to share about this wonderful resource for families, not only in our community from afar. I met people as far as like Lake City, down in the Tampa area came up. It was a wonderful, wonderful event. So Mika, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about through the lens of a parent as well as a teacher in Lee County.
Good evening. So my name is Mika Budo, and I am my daughter's advocate. My daughter is Mia. She is a fun-loving, rambunctious little girl. She has likes and dislikes like typical 6-year-olds. She just happens to have Down syndrome. She's a child first and should not be defined by her disability or should not be labeled by her disability. Now, it's not only Disability Awareness Week, but it is also Down Syndrome Awareness Month. Down syndrome is also called trisomy 21, which means there are 3 copies of the 21st chromosome. 1 in every 691 babies in the United States is born with Down syndrome, making Down syndrome the most common genetic condition. Now, approximately 400,000 Americans have Down syndrome, and about 6,000 babies with Down syndrome are born in the United States every year. Now, when giving birth to a child with Down syndrome, it's pretty scary for so many reasons. They're all emotional in nature, but for many, this is further complicated by health concerns. Roughly 50% of newborns with Down syndrome are born with heart defects, requiring surgery in the first year or 2 of life. In fact, many parents say that it's the heart complications that scares them more than the Down syndrome diagnosis. Our Mia had open heart surgery at the tender age of 10 months old. The harsh reality is that having a child with a disability is hard. You have to work harder, you worry more, you do more research, it costs more, you have less free time, and you're simply faced with more challenges than you have with a typically developing child. You also have a greater burden to prove to the world that your child matters, that they have a voice. They have a voice worth listening to, and that their potential is more than meets the eye. You fight so that they are not defined by a label or their diagnosis. It can be difficult for most to understand our journey. The first 3 years of Mia's life was filled with doctor's appointments and therapy, physical, occupational, speech, to name a few, and it continues to this day. When you have a child with a disability, you constantly worry about what may put them into the hospital next. Aside from the health scares, as a parent, you're extremely concerned about the 18 to 21 years of their education that lies ahead. With the early intervention process in the state of Florida called Early Steps, Mia was given an advantage in her early life. 30 years ago, individuals with Down syndrome would have automatically been institutionalized. With early intervention, she is on the road to becoming a productive member of society. Early Steps is Florida's early intervention system that offers services to eligible infants and toddlers with significant delays. With research-based evidence, research shows that our children benefit from early intervention and inclusion with their peers in the general education setting. When my husband and I were weighing Mia's educational options and were transitioning from the Early Steps program to the educational setting, it was daunting to say the least. It was scary to think of the services that would be lost. We thought to ourselves, what next? Well, Mia had to go through screening, evaluation, development of an IEP, individualized education plan, and referral to programs and services available to her in Levy County. The developmental screening alone was screener for communication skills, gross and fine motor skills, social emotional skills, adaptive skills, pre-academic skills, and vision and hearing. This team included educators, speech pathologists, a social worker, school psychologists, occupational therapists, and physical therapists. This is a lot to take in when your child's schedule is already full of doctors, appointments, and therapies. To this day, I will never forget walking up to this big old building in Levy County, your ESC building. We were to meet with your team. I didn't know what to expect, but I knew I was there to advocate for my child. I thought to myself, were they going to get it? Were they going to have her best interest? I honestly thought I was going to have an uphill battle, fighting for her right to have a least restrictive environment or education. These are the fears of a mom with a child with special needs. I will never forget how my fears were left at that door that day. I remember how Laura Brown and Marcy Young getting on the floor with my daughter and playing with her, while our concerns were addressed in an honest and open manner. All our questions were answered, and by the time we left, we knew that Levy County would be the place where our child would receive her education. The genuine concern and professionalism of your team was the deciding factor. To be able to meet at one location with the initial team and not to be pulled in many different appointments made the transition to the school system a little less stressful. I can only speak of my family's positive experience for that day, to the present, from that day and to the present. And we as a family are so appreciative the support that Mia has received from her teachers, therapists, and ESC staffing. Mia presently attends Joyce Bullock Elementary School, she's in kindergarten, in an inclusion setting, which means she is in a class with her typical peers and is doing fantastic. The positive relationships that started three years ago continues today with your ESC staff, and I'm so thankful for that. I appreciate that they fully understand the importance of inclusion for their students with disabilities. I am also proud to say that my daughter, as my inspiration and the positive experiences that I have had with the ESC department in Levy County, I went back to school and graduated this year. And as Dr. Hall said, I'm an ESC teacher at Yankeetown School in Levy County. And on top of that, I was also going to share the exciting news. Over the weekend, we did have our opening for Gigi's Playhouse. It's a Down Syndrome Achievement Center. It's the first one in the state of Florida, and it is in Gainesville. It's a nonprofit run by volunteers. We offer no-cost therapeutic programs to individuals with Down syndrome from birth to adulthood. One of the features of the program is our one-on-one literacy program for math and reading, because our children do learn differently. But we have up to 30-plus programs we can choose from for our demographics. Again, we have families that travel from hours away. This is a much-needed resource for our families who have individuals with Down syndrome. We embrace the whole family, not just the individual. I ask that you pass on our information along to those families or to anyone who would like to support us. I just want to end with the acknowledgement of Disability Awareness Month and how important it is for all staff to look at each one of their exceptional students as children first and to look past their disabilities. As a parent, we want our children to be not labeled and not to be defined by their disabilities. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Something for you. Mia, would you come forward, please? She's so adorable. I know. This is a little something from you, from all of us. A little something for you, sweetie. You're so welcome. She was so pretty on Sunday with her shirt. That is why we do what we do. They start young like Mia, and they grow up to be adults like us. We lay the foundation. We support them to be the peace that they are. Is it a challenge? Yes, it is. But it's so well worth it. Thank you so much. Board members, you have been very special. And our veteran board members are accustomed to me bringing treats to you in a red bag. It's kind of a tradition. When Dr. Hall comes, I bring a red bag, right? It's wonderful. But there's something extra special in that bag. You have some goodies in there too, but one of the things that's really, really special, and I've asked our schools to do this, and they do just as I asked them to do, is that each of you have an individual, personalized invitation including Mr. Hastings, who is the superintendent of schools, who does visit all of our schools all the time. But you have some special invites in your bag, each of your bags, to visit your respective schools in your community. And Mr. Delaney, you know the district is yours. You can go into any classroom at any time. We welcome you. So you'll, with proper ID. Sign in. So in your individual badge, you're going to see some invitations sent to you by students, by administration, by teachers, inviting you to come and visit with them. Spend some time in the classroom. See the children that we work so diligently to support. Ms. Mills, you have something for your respective board member.
I do. Mr. Turner is my only board member at Yankee Town, so we knew that his packet might be a little slim. So we put together a letter for him, and I'm gonna try to hold it up at the same time. And it just simply says, you are invited. And it says, Mr. Turner thinks the students at Yankee Town School would like to invite our extra special board member to visit our school for mounds of fun. We want to show our appreciation by giving you 100 grants, but the money slipped through our butterfingers. So at crunch time, take a fast break and enjoy us at Yankee. Come visit us at Yankee Town School. And we also have a candy bar of excellence for Mr. Hastings to come visit us, and just acknowledge this month and acknowledge Ms. Buto, and I think you've seen her excellence tonight.
To bring my presentation to closure, each of you have a copy of our resolution of disability history awareness piece. Our superintendent and our board chair, Mr. Turner, will sign to make it official. Whereas October 1st through the 14th, 2015 has been designated Disability History and Awareness Week by the Florida State Legislature. Whereas since 1975, students with disabilities have been educated in Levy County Public School System with the passing of Public Law 94-142 by Congress. Whereas Levy County School Board has over 750 teachers, administrators, paraeducators, contracted staff, and support staff committed to providing quality educational services to students with disabilities. Whereas exceptional student education offers students with disabilities experiences and opportunities that would enable individuals to obtain post-secondary education, enter the workforce, and contribute to their communities. Whereas Levy County School Board has approximately 1,150 students identified with special needs who receive a quality, and I just want to emphasize that for a moment, contrary to what anyone believes, we provide a quality education in the least restrictive environment. Remember I said early on, we look at each child as an individual, and we do. Whereas Levy County School Board supports the goal of disability history and awareness education and will continue to facilitate supportive environments for all students, better treatment of individuals with disabilities, and increased attention to preventing the bullying or harassment of students with disabilities. Therefore, be it resolved that the Levy County School Board does hereby proclaim the weeks of October 1st through the 14th, 2015 as Disability History and Awareness Weeks. Be it further resolved that the Levy County School Board and the Superintendent of Schools reaffirms the local, state, and federal commitment to full inclusion and equal opportunity for all students with disabilities, passed and adopted this 13th day of October 2015. Superintendent Mr. Hastings, Board Chair Mr. Rick Turner.
The chair is seeking action on the resolutions.
Move approval of the resolution.
Second. I have a motion for approval of the resolution and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Resolution is in effect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. Excellent as always.
That is your next step. Go ahead, Mr. Superintendent.
I'd just like to express my gratitude to Dr. Hall and the staff. And I don't know if you caught the number or not, but 1,150 students with disabilities in our school system. That's one out of, or about 23% of our students have disabilities. We lead the state of Florida in the percentage of students with disabilities. And so the job that this team does is just exceptional. Dr. Hall also represents us on the state and national level, and many accolades there with her team. And I just don't know how we could do without the team of specialists, and we thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thanks,
Thank you,
y'all.
Mr. Superintendent. And as a side note from the chair, very good presentation with your PowerPoint, et cetera. Would like to offer advice to Dr. Winnick and his team. I only counted 3 acronyms that were not explained in our presentation. Dr. Winnick, thank you very much for the future.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And I know that children need to get home at a reasonable hour, and teachers need to do things. So if you would like to go, that is fine. If you want to stay, we'd be glad to have you do. So thank you for being here very, very much.
And while they are exiting, we'll bring up to the podium Katie Wade, item D on your agenda, 401K plan. She has some folks that she'll be introducing.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Mr. board members. Our first presentation is on our 401K. As you may realize, we have it currently with John Hancock. We are considering moving that to Fidelity. Chris Dodd, Franklin Letts, and Proportionate Justice Party. They are constantly reviewing our plan, making sure that we are in compliance, if we need to make any modifications, and so I'm going to let them explain this next process.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Hall is a tough act to follow. I am not quite the eloquent speaker, but I'm going to do my best. I'm merely a Washoe County graduate, so bear with me, please. We all can't be perfect. That's why we have Mr. Hardy here with us to help us out when we go astray. As many of you may know, my name is Chris Dodd. Justin Hardy and Frank Lentz have had the fortune of handling the Phoebe County School Board 401K for a little over 5 years now. And part of the job that we're tasked with is making sure the investment options are appropriate. We have good funds available to the employees of the plan to make sure the costs of the funds are in line. We also handle the interaction between the third-party administrator, which is the TPA, that handles disbursements, hardship withdrawals with the plan. We've made a change in that area recently, which has worked out well. One of the other things that we do periodically is review the actual plan, the entire plan, 401K plan, and make sure that there is not another option that might not be better fit for this specific organization as far as the size of the plan, et cetera. So we've already met with Ms. Kayla Wade, Mr. Bob Clemens regarding our recommendation. We passed out some packets with some information. Part of the information is regarding Fidelity, which is a company which I'm sure most of you, not all of you, have heard of as the largest 401K provider. We also have some specific information regarding the plan that we have now with John Hancock, where the assets are currently allocated. The rationale for our decision to make this recommendation to move the plan from John Hancock to Fidelity first is based on the internal cost of the plan. Each investment option within the plan has what the mutual fund companies call an expense ratio, which is basically just the cost that it takes them to manage the investment options, to run funds, etc. The average cost that is in the John Hancock plan now is approximately 1.3%. If we move the plan to Fidelity, it would drop all the way down to 0.95%. So it would move from 1.3 to 0.95. So it's a significant savings that will be incurred by the participants in the plan. There's approximately 300 participants in the plan. Of those 300, about 160 are active employees. It's approximately $400 million that's in the plan now. So in searching the plans, there's 4 million. What I said? 400 million? Well, there's not. 4 million.
That's why I don't want to check the balance.
Not 400 million. Lots of county education. Common there somewhere. 4 million. I apologize for that. That's currently in the plan. Now, the expense ratio is not the end-all and be-all. There can certainly take mutual funds and investment options that have a low expense ratio and subpar investment performance. So what we obviously are trying to do is marry the best fund performances with the least investment costs of running mutual funds. So with Fidelity, we basically come up with a plan lineup that was, as mentioned, reduce the cost significantly to employees. We also, and I'm going to introduce Greg Libby, who's here with us today from Fidelity, to speak for just a minute on the Fidelity platform and the enhancements in the technology that we like, the things with the mobile app and some other things we're going to let him delve into a little bit. But from our point of view, we just feel like if we don't present the best option that's out there in the marketplace today, someone else will. So we obviously want to continue working with Levy County. We enjoy the teachers that we need to interact with when they call and ask for, investment advice, retirement advice, etc. So we'll often take any questions regarding that, but I'll also like to have, like I just mentioned, Greg come up here and just spend a minute or two to kind of talk about Fidelity.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you for the time tonight. Thank you. I have 4 children also in the school system in Seminole County, and one actually is a special needs child, so definitely appreciate that piece of the presentation. Thank you. So I am Vice President of Fidelity. I live in Orlando, and been in this business for about 17 years. So when I met Chris, Justin, Franklin, it definitely was a breath of fresh air, because we talked about things that I know you guys care about, which is making sure we get the desired outcomes in our retirement, making sure we have the best tools in place for people to really get help. And one of the things that you'll learn about Fidelity tonight, and hopefully ongoing, is that we really care about each individual. Fidelity is the largest provider of retirement plans in the United States. 1 in every 4 persons that actually contributes to a 401k plan contributes to a Fidelity plan. What's unique about us today that is not so much 10 years ago is that every single participant is on the same platform. So what we do for Disney, or IBM, or Microsoft, and some of the larger companies that we provide services for is the same that we do for someone putting their first dollar in a 401k plan. We invest about 20% of our top line revenue to technology because we understand that everybody wants to communicate a little bit differently. My oldest son will text me from the couch and tell me he wants popcorn. So a texting feature is important, having that mobile app. Being able to reach somebody where they are. As a record keeper, we know who they are, we know how they're doing, but what they're doing, how they want to communicate with us becomes very important. So what we're trying to really do is find out, how do you want to communicate? For some, it's actually speaking to a live person, having us come on site. And so we'll be committed to coming to each school to help each individual that wants us to talk to them about their individual investments, how much they should invest. We believe that people should be taking about 12 to 14% of their paycheck to save for retirement. That's very difficult, especially in the beginning when you're just getting started, or as you have life events that happen to you. I would have never thought I would have 4 children right now, but I do. And so that becomes my main concern. And what I find is that by the time my money gets home, somebody wants it. So helping people where they are is a very valuable piece of the Fidelity way. And our culture really is leaving no one behind. What typically happens in a retirement plan is that if you don't sign up, you get left behind until you come to us and say we're ready to get started. And so what happens at Fidelity is we're going to actually contact every person 8 times a year on top of the statements they get. So if you're already a participant, 12 times a year you'll hear from us. If you're not a participant, we want to continue to talk to you about that, and that never stops. And so we're pretty proud of the fact we have about 23 million participants across the United States, and the average amount coming out of someone's paycheck is 8.1%. So really meeting people where they are, understanding that 1% is a start, and let's work towards that, what we think is that 12 to 14%. The other side of that is the asset allocation piece. We noticed that 89% of the participants in the plan today are used in a balanced fund. And in good markets, that does okay. In bad markets, you have some protection there. But what we think would be more appropriate is a target date fund that is more age appropriate for people, that allows them to have a more conservative path as they get closer to retirement. So if I'm in a 2030 target date fund, I'm going to turn 65 around the year 2030. My asset allocation is going to get a little more conservative as I get closer to that date. Helps me take a little less risk as I'm getting older, but a little more risk when I'm younger. And we're finding that to be a very appropriate asset allocation to control risk for people that really are guessing when it comes to the investment side. We also want to talk to people, have the same people talk to them every time. So our educators that will come on site will be the same people every time. When you call our call center, every single employee at Fidelity, and there's about 43,000 of us across the United States, we all live in the United States. When you call our call centers, they're going to be able to talk to someone. In fact, we have a call center in Jacksonville that has about 6,000 employees. When you call the call center as an employee, as a participant in the plan, you actually can speak to the same person every time. You actually get routed to that person. The wait time could be a little longer, and they could actually call you back. So we think that's a very important. If you can engage with someone, we think you'll take action. Now, I put inside the packet here a little bit more about our mobile app. So basically, once an employee becomes eligible, we would help them plan for life. You'll see on that first tab there on Plan for Life, on page 3, the correspondence that we did for the 2015 plan year. Every year, every participant will get a progress report. We'll tell them things are doing well, the things are not doing well. We really want to be talking about what's the next best step for them. We'll have campaigns that we'll do for you and for the participants that will help them stay engaged. If one thing's not working, we'll try something different. We'll measure everything. We'll actually tell you in what school systems things are working and things that are not, in places where it's not working. So we want to make sure not only do we have a campaign, that we measure it, how can we do it a little bit better. So about a few weeks before they have something come out of their paycheck, they're going to receive information from us about the plan. They're going to be able to download the mobile app because we find that about 75% of the people, that's the way they want to communicate. And they'll be able to enroll through what we call a starter package. We'll give them the ability to just pick a number. We can integrate with the payroll systems to help them with those numbers and some tools there. But we also personalize the experience on their tablet. We can tell them how they compare to people that live in their neighborhood because we have that data. And that's using really gamification to help people take action. So I'll give you an example of that. So if we look at your zip code and your age, we can tell you what balances look like compared to you, people your age, what your performance looks like, and how much they're taking out their pay compared to you. And that gamification makes people take action. I think we're all competitive by nature. And if someone's doing better than you in something, let me look at that and see how I can change that behavior. What we found is it's got to be 1 or 2 clicks. We do about 6,000 usability studies per year in our Boston headquarters, our corporate office, where we actually fly people to that location and study them, look at their retina movements, what do they want from us, and what we've learned is technology is a big part of that. But we don't want to lose that one-on-one connection. I also have the ability on the website to be personalized as well, so they can actually add in any other asset, any other retirement plan that they have to that website, so they'll have one sign-on to be able to see everything that they have in one place. But we can also see what the investments look like in those other assets. We can also look at their liabilities and help them really have an overall idea of what the retirement income is going to look like, not just the 401k, but other things they may own, but also liabilities. I put my checking account, my savings account, my mortgage, my car payment, it's all one place. I have one password to access it all. And Fidelity is the only financial company in the world that has what's called an ISO 27001 certification, which is the gold standard in data security. So we guarantee that no one can ever get to your 401k money, and if they do, we'll make you whole with a guarantee that any money that's hacked into, we will make you whole for that money. It is a problem in our world where you're talking about $5.5 trillion that we manage, so we want to make sure people feel comfortable with putting their information in one place. The transition to Fidelity would be about 75 days. We were actually targeting a January 1st conversion because we know that in November, there are some meetings happening to roll out health insurance and other things, and so we would like to tag on to that meeting and be a part of that. Our conversion team would work directly with John Hancock during that time period to make sure that it's a smooth transition. One of the things that Department of Labor has allowed us to do is to work directly with record keepers to keep you out of some of the, what I'll call administrivia things that happen when data and participant information is being exchanged. So we will work really hard with John Hancock to make the transition very smooth. And typically the amount of time that we spend together during the transition, I think you've been through one before, is about 5 or 6 hours of your time over the next 75 days. I think we've identified those members that would be involved there. Yeah. So really, it's an open architecture platform with Fidelity. So instead of at John Hancock, where there's about 150 funds today to choose from, we've got about 16,000 funds that we think are prudent investments for us to be able to look at to get the best outcomes for participants. Having that target date fund is going to put people on a better course. The participant experience is going to be a very high-touch experience, and that each participant will be communicated with 8 to 12 times during the year, depending on if they're a participant or not, leaving no one behind. We also will act as a directed trustee, meaning any hardships and any other provisions through the plan would actually come to us, and then we'd notify you that it's happening. So some of the administrative things that happen on a day-to-day basis, we would take over that responsibility. We think it's pretty meaningful in year one that we're going to save about $15,000 of cost. That money goes right back to the people that are in the plan this year. That's this year alone. Fidelity's never had a price increase in our history, and that's 65 years we've been doing this. And we know that this is only a starting point at 0.95. It will only go down from here. Any questions for me?
So if someone's got funds, they'll work with transferring them over from whatever fund they have, John Hancock, something, Fidelity.
Yeah, what Greg mentioned, and it's common in most 401ks today, is the assets kind of pooled in a specific type of fund. The assets in this particular plan have pooled in the moderate-based portfolio. So what all employees, when we have meetings to discuss employees, we'll be able to review all the available options for them to move into. But as the assets move over, they will be distributed into the target date funds based on their particular age. The employees can, with help of us, Greg, other people, 401k, Fidelity 401k department, reallocate those whenever they want. We would have to do that. They would basically be moved over into the target date fund, specifically matched to their age and their expected retirement date.
Chris, that's how they got to the fund they're in. We took it over 5 years ago. We can map it, or we can basically, the Department of Labor lets us put it in a balanced fund. Well, moderate's balanced. Now they let us use the age-based funds, which we feel improves them, because what we've seen, obviously, is they go and they stay. And that's why there's so many in that moderate. So now we go, and if they stay, now it's managed through retirement versus someone that's 65 years old should probably be 60% equity, 40% bonds. It should be 20% equity, 80% bonds. And so that's done automatically. So it takes that out of their hands if they don't want to mess with it. And that's kind of the reason why they started. We see that they did mess with it. But we certainly have a complete lineup we'll have in there, stellar lineup that we can counsel and work with them individually on and move them out of that retirement date into something specific.
And that proposed lineup is actually in the green packet there on that right side.
Some of the funds we picked out.
And I would be remiss without saying, so what kind of partnership does Fidelity do with school foundations or things like that? So we'd love to work with Fidelity.
Sure, it's a big part of our business for sure, so absolutely.
Okay. I just want Alachua County typing in my numbers.
Me too.
That's the third I've ever had.
Well, I'll leave the county to do that.
We teach it right in Lee County. I want liberal thinking on my side.
They taught Justice not in Lee County, but they know his math.
The $400 million plan started at $1.
Obviously, now look to Ms. Wade, Mr. Clemens, we need action on this evening. And you two and other people have made up the committee.
It was really Mr. Clemens and I sat down with them, and I think they take our lead from Justin and Chris and Franklin.
Okay, so which one of you two is going to make the recommendation to the board? You?
Mr. Chairman, I recommend that we move our 401k plan from John Hancock to Fidelity.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, thank you for the recommendation. We have a motion and a second to do so. Is there further discussion?
Kaylee, so it's all staying the same company and it's just moving different, I guess, from John Hancock to Fidelity, but it's still the same company that we're dealing with, right? Yes. And so you have really researched and looked and you know that this is the absolute best company.
Yeah, they are, and they're really the most well-known company out there. I think people probably recognize that name more than John Hancock. And, you know, a few months ago, we changed our TPA because of some issues. That will not change. We have a wonderful working relationship. I've had no issues with them. So that'll all stay in the same, there won't be a change in that until we can process things here.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those like sign, motion carried. Thank you all. There's one benefit when you sit in this chair with the gavel up here, and that is while the next on the agenda is getting ready, we're going to take a 5 or 6 minute break. Meeting come back to order. We'll move down to item H on the agenda. 2016 insurance renewal. Katie Wade.
Thank you again. I wanted to just remind you of the different benefits that we have. We have life insurance. We brought on long-term disability last year. We have hospital indemnity, dental and vision, Aflac cancer, Aflac accident, and our flexible spending account. All of those are renewing this year with current benefits, no changes in rates. In fact, on our dental PPO plan, Don Crook, who is our consultant, was able to get Humana to kick in a little bit more, and they will increase their percentage that they will pay on the PPO side. So that was nice. Next, we are on to the health insurance. I'm going to introduce Brian Brandon a little bit. You probably remember him from Crown. And they oversee our care center. We have monthly meetings with Brian and his team, and we go over, Bob and Candy and Jeff and I are in there. We go over our monthly claims, because as being self-insured, that's part of our deal. We have to pay those monthly claims. We were looking at this year, when we started looking, we've had a couple of bad claim months. And so nothing that we could have expected. And I'm going to have Brian show you those numbers so that you'll see where those claim numbers are coming from, that we're not pulling them out of the air, those are actual claim dollars. And what our recommendation will be for our increase. We're not going to vote tonight. The board will not vote on the recommendation tonight. Okay? And then I will be available for any questions. Okay? You're all done.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you, Brian. Were you educated in Orange County? I think Mr. Adbell was just.
I'm
He was
a product of West Orange High School.
I was too. I was Orange County too. So.
We have a new school that's coming in. We just got started to break ground on the relief school. When I went there, it was 2,700, which I thought was huge, coming from a small school in West Virginia. Now there's 4,400 there. Yeah. And they have Wacoya High School that pulls them away, and Olympia pulls them. So, and they're pretty good at football. Okay. Where to start? First thing I'd like to start with is really just the financial piece of it. I've got a bunch of paperwork, documents for us to kind of walk through. Please ask questions. Stop me when you can, or if anything comes up. When we talk about
claims and where we are today. Start there first. This is a report that you may have in your packet. So 3 pages. In the first page, there you go. Our claims to date are, that's it, yes. And I have it up on the screen here. Our claims to date are 2.8 million. Because of our reimbursement strategy that we have, our stop loss with Symetra covers claims that exceed $150,000. Once a claim exceeds that, Symetra then is reimbursing until. So when you net out the reimbursement of $184,000, our current net claims are at 2.6 million. Okay. So if you flip to the third page, this is to kind of give you a reference base to where we are as it is compared to last year. Now, I know we had the discussion last year about mature claims and immature claims and covering run-in, and now with our 2015 plan year, we had to cover the claims that ran out of November and December of 2014, and they run into January and February of 15. So we have to pick those up, and it's called, and basically our claims are now mature claims. So when you look at where we're spending our fixed cost dollars, which is the reinsurance that we pay Symetra to pay for the $150,000 deductible to ensure that the claim exceeds that. And we also pay Florida Blue to process and administer our claims. That's the $606,000 to date. Column C on my spreadsheet was the first column there on page 3. I have pharmacy and medical broken out. 2.4 million is the gross number on your medical claims to date through August, and 406,000 of that, in addition to the 2.4 in the medical, is pharmacy. So total just over 2.8 million. And then the health center is also included in there on a monthly basis. We walk through utilization. I'll walk through utilization. I'm not sure if that was in your packet with the health center utilization. I'll give you a copy and we'll walk through that in just a little bit.
Right, the medical column, that's completely different, separate than the health center column?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
In the medical column, that's what's paid by Florida Blue?
Correct. So this column here and this column here, column AB and AD, on your packet is going to be the second and third columns. That is your health plan claims. That has nothing to do with the health center. The health center, again, you can keep in mind, there's no filing of claims with the health center. You know, we pay a doc, and when we buy drugs at a discounted price, and those drugs get passed through at no cost, no markup to the district, and you pay that directly. It's not filed through insurance. That is in the health center column. Okay. And then you get the total, and then right now we do have a claim that has exceeded 150,000. The claim was 334,000 to date. So right now, delivered a check last week to Kaylee for 184,000. So as that claim, if there's continuing claims, hopefully not. This person is out of the hospital and recovering, so hopefully there's not any more ongoing claims and they get healthy. So looking at what makes up where we are today. So I'm going to pull up a Blue Cross report that it's got a lot of numbers on it, and we reviewed this last week during the insurance committee meeting. I have a copy of it.
this pharmacy numbers, these are if somebody went to CVS, Walgreens, that's.
Correct, health plan spend. This will help your, easier on the eyes, but this is a detailed report that walks through where the claims are going on the plan. So the left column is our current period that we're in, 2015, and the right column, or the prior period, is last year. When you take a look at when you look at Florida Blue and how they process claims and how quickly they process claims, when you're trying to calculate what the run-in claims basis is about 45 days of claims. And right now we're averaging right now, including the high claimants that we're having, we're averaging just over 330,000 a month. So when you take that, it's about a $400,000 run-in cost. So when you're looking at the prior period, and if you're going to mature that, it's going to look like more like a $2 million spend. But in the current period where we are today, that is mature claims. It's what we're spending. We're spending those dollars right now in our current period. It includes run-in, so it's now mature. So our inpatient facility costs, it breaks it down into our 4 components that we talked about. When we talked about health center and impact and what health center impacts, in terms of the professional side, in terms of the drugs, those are immediate cost drivers that we're able to attack with the health center. Inpatient and outpatient, it's more of a long-term strategy. You hope to catch things. You hope to catch that heart attack before it happens. That or the stroke or whatever the chronic condition that other folks may have. You're hoping to catch those with preventative services. So their inpatient services, if you look at that, right now we're at $869,000 of the $2.8 million. Now keep in mind, this is gross claims. This is a report that comes from Florida Blue. We at Crown, we internally track the reimbursements. Florida Blue doesn't track when you have a claim that exceeds $150,000. These are gross claims, so the 150 is not backed out of that. So the inpatient facility, if you just look at our facility costs in total, is about $1.6 million. And you break that down, the inpatient's $869,000, and the outpatient is $795,000 today.
So if I'm looking at this correctly, we doubled.
Yes. Yes, sir. The professional side, also up, more so on the specialist side. We do have several ongoing cancers. We have a couple of multiple sclerosis claims that are going on. Those types of claims require specialists, and they require to go to those specialists. So we do have one thing I went back and was interesting when we got our July month was very high at over $500,000. I went back and ran and looked at who's using the plan. Typically in the summers, school districts, folks, they're all get things done. Members get services done. So we had 72% of the members, total members of 870 some change members, 72% of them accessed the plan in the month of July. So I went back and looked at that. Well, that seemed high. Well, when I went back and looked at it, we were averaging 68% of the members on a monthly basis access the plan.
That's for prescriptions
Everything, everything. It's all services. In some, which it's over to like 2.6 services per member is what it equates to. So in some capacity, whether it's pharmacy or if it's inpatient, outpatient, professional services, whether it be a primary care or it be a specialist, 68% of our members are using the plan monthly.
Blue Cross.
Florida Blue plan,
So
yes.
that's not going to the clinic?
Correct.
That's not getting a prescription at the clinic?
That's correct. That's correct. We'll go through utilization, which
I think you guys put.
yes.
So the inpatient and outpatient, that's all for Blue, so the inpatient's not the carrier center?
No.
That's all for Blue?
Inpatient,
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
in Gainesville or Ocala, wherever services are being performed.
The 72%, was that the month of July?
Yeah, that was
It was
July.
in 1 month?
That was
Okay.
1 month,
That was
right? Yeah, so if you go back, it's on average about 68% using the plan.
How does that compare to another district our size, the same number?
Yeah.
870 and change, how does that compare to the others?
I ran it on Citrus, and Citrus is averaging right around 50%. So it's quite a bit more. Also, when you look at your average age on the plan, it's 51, so which is higher.
Is it higher than theirs? Their
Yes.
average age?
Could you also tell, like, just from looking at what they're claiming, are those things that they could be going to the carrier center for?
Yeah, you know, specifically drugs, that's the easy thing, right? If you're taking a brand name drug, I mean, our formulary is posted, you know, folks can go online, they can look at it or call the center. If you're taking a drug, first off, if you're taking a generic drug and if you're paying for it on the plan, probably should come to the center and get it. We can dispense 90-day prescriptions, so there's really, you should be doing that because it's less costly.
Free.
It's free, but it's not free. It's free to the members, but the board is paying for it. But it's when
The board's
you
gonna pay for it either way, you have to pay less.
right. So if you're taking a Simvastatin, the same drug, and it's costing the plan $18, and we can buy and give it away for $5, it makes sense. Plus, you're saving
the word free. There's no copay.
No copay.
No
Yes.
copay.
Correct. That's
Right.
better.
There is the drug. There is.
The employee doesn't have to pay out of it.
That's right. That's right. If there's a brand name drug that the member is taking, that there may be a generic equivalent or a therapeutic substitute. Make an appointment at the health center. Talk to the doctor. Hey, will this work for me? Try it. If it doesn't, okay, then you know that you need to. It's like Nexium back in the day. Nexium wasn't. It was just brand and that was it. So obviously there's occurrences that have to go to the health plan. Obviously, if you have a heart attack or a stroke, the health center, it's not going to support that. It's not going to support oncology for those that have cancer. So I get what it is when you look at the number of claims that we have today. We have, I just had some quick notes, this is not in your packet, but just to give you an idea, I ran a report for those that have exceeded $5,000 in terms of payments on the plan. Okay, there were 91 members that account for $2.3 million of our 2.8. So when we talked about this on last week, it's not so much the 1 or 2 or 3 high claimants that we have. Right now we only have 4 claimants that have exceeded 50% of the 150,000. One of them being the big one at 334,000. Okay, the other 2 are below One of them's 109, and the other two are in the 70s. But when you drive that down further, that's not what's driving the overall cost of the plan. So I went back and looked at it, and we reviewed this on Monday. We had 22 claims that exceeded 30,000 up to the 330,000. 16 of them are 66,000, between 66,000 and 30,000. So we're having there's illness. There's hate with the never events. You hate to folks go in, they have a surgery, they get sick, get septic, and the more claims continue. So when you take a look at that, there were 16 that fell in that 30,000 to 66,000, which is a lot. And that's what's driving our aggregate spend of claims right now. And that's why, when we talked about, being self-funded, it's more of an ownership mentality that members need to have. You own into the plan. So if you're going to use the plan, then we have to budget dollars to cover our basis. Plus, like Bob and I talked about, we also have a reserve that we need to build up, so that once we have a reserve and then we build that up, and then when a bad year comes along, we can weather the storm and the increase isn't so much. So right now we're just getting out of the gate and we're having a bad year. So it's almost a double whammy because we're still trying to build a reserve to support the whole program. So it is right now that we just have a lot of we call it mid-claim utilization right now on the plan, and so that's really what you're seeing. The outpatient. There's I get it, folks. We're getting things done, and there's needs that need to be taken care of. But that's really what's driving. So when you take a look at if you go down to the other highlighted area, were you wondering what that was? Oh, there it goes. We'll swap. Okay. So when you take a look at in Florida Blue, the way they report their reporting structure, it's because they've got groups that are 15,000, 20,000. So the way that it's reported when you're trying to calculate like how many inpatient days we had, or how many ER services we had, or how many drugs were dispensed through the plan. They do it on a per 1,000 basis. So in our case, we're basically taking that we take those numbers and you multiply it by our membership count. But the effective rate of change is still the same. So when you take a look at the 385 there in the inpatient versus the 316, when you look at it on our per 1,000 basis for our plan, it's 275. So you have 10 in the prior period. It was 275 and 336, which is a 22% increase just in our number of days that folks were in the hospital. How many inpatient days that we had. So we had a couple cases where folks were in the hospital for one person in the hospital for 38 days, which obviously skews the number. In terms of the inpatient admissions, so now we're talking about how many admissions we had. In the prior period was, when you equate that and you break it down, it was 52 to 79 currently. So it's a 50% increase in the number of admissions that we had. Now we had a couple of folks, it's not 79 unique people, because we had a couple of folks that had gone back. So when you take a look at the outpatient and the inpatient, that's really where the big cost increase is right now. The professional side, when you take a look at the PCP, it's down 13%, which is natural. That's what happens. It's a shift from the center, or to the center, I should say. Particularly also when you take a look at the pharmacy. That's when you do that on the per 1,000 basis. In the prior period was 10,632 versus 8,966 current period. So we've had a 15% drop in prescriptions. So we're doing a good job of getting the shift from the plan. And as if you notice back up top at the cost side on the drugs are only up 9.9%, which is really good comparative to the market out there. And I'm sure you've seen the direct marketing with the drugs out there, with the specialty drugs. We talked about this on Monday. There's drugs out there. You see the Harvonia or the Sovaldi commercials now with the direct marketing. That drug is $1,000 a pill, and it's an 88-day regimen. So, and it's for hepatitis C. So it's by 2020, we'll take a look at start talking about specialty pharmacy. 50% of our drug spend will be in specialty pharmacy. So right now, our drug spend is out. It looks great. It's just the inpatient, outpatient stuff right now that's just really driving right now. So when we talked about coming up with numbers in terms of the increase that right now projected at 24%, that is, you take what we expect, claims how we expect to finish the year right now, which is right now we're just going to come in right nearly $4 million. We take the numbers that we're at today through 8 months and trend that out for the rest of the year, we close to $4 million. So we can't say that in 2016 claims are only going to be $4 million. We have to say there's trend involved. Right now, Florida Blue is using 10.4% in terms of their overall book of claims. There's medical trend involved, plus we have our existing ongoing claims. We have, like I said before, we've got multiple cases. We've got 3 or 4 cancers that are ongoing right now, and which are going to require. Good news is our some of the bigger claims that are going on. We had one have a bacterial infection that hopefully that's taken care of and that's done, and so we won't anticipate having that claim next year. The injury that occurred in the summer also, you wouldn't anticipate having another $330,000 claim. But in terms of budgeting dollars for 2016, we have to say, what do we expect claims? How are they trending over the current period to the prior period? And we have to take a conservative approach knowing that we need to build a reserve as well. So that's how we get to our number that we're at today, which is about just to pay for claims is about $4.8 million. The state's going to require us to hold between $600,000 and $700,000 dollars for our 60-day reserve. So that's another factor of why when we talk about building the dollars for the reserve. Yes, sir.
Does Florida Blue, do they provide any actuarial data? I mean, I'm new, so I don't know how much history we have in this, or you said they're using a 10% projection, but I mean, annually, or?
Yeah, annually, when you take, when Florida Blue will do a renewal, what they do is they'll take your gross claims, and it's in essence what we're doing, but like for a fully insured block, they take your gross claims, then they net out, because internally they have what's referred to as pooling, which is just like stop loss, albeit it's usually a higher rate or higher deductible. Then they net that out, and then they add trend, then they add their retention, which is between 14 and 16% on top of that, and then they basically come up with a projected increase. So again, our basis really is anticipating that claims are going to be $4 million at the end of this year. So if we say that claims are going to be $3.6 million at the end of the year, we are shorting ourselves by that mindset.
But what if they are 3.6?
Then good news is we keep all that. The plan
Then that goes
keeps
into
that dollar.
reserve.
Correct. So next year, if we have $1 million reserve because claims cleaned up and we had a great year, then when claims are 4.4 million, okay, well, that may, when you run that number out, it requires to have a 15% increase. Well, we can use some of that. We use some of those dollars in reserves to keep the increase down. Good example is the city of Titusville. They're a little bit smaller. They're about 600 employees. They had their first year horrible. Then they've had 4 years of great claims experience. They were able to build nearly a $3 million reserve. And it's exactly what they did. They said, okay, we're going to, instead of, we're going to get a little bit every year, which I always agree, get single digit at worst. And because you want to continue to add, so when you have that experience, you're able to withstand it. And that's exactly what they did. They were able to, for 4 years, able to have smaller increases, and they used some of their reserve dollars because they spend about $330,000, $40,000, so they have about $700,000. So they had $2.3 million in reserves to use for the ongoing years. This year, very bad year. It's almost identical to the spend, and they were able to use a good chunk of those dollars that they built up. But it's been 6 years that they built up. So that's basically what we're trying to get to, and it's a function of our claims, so we have to come up with dollars. We have to say, what do we anticipate claims to look like for next year? And that's, we can't be short. We're only, in essence, we talked about it, we don't want to kick the can to the next year or the next year. We need to stabilize now. So, you have health center, do you have this one too? Okay. Just to go through, just on the clinic side, utilization has been great. We're averaging 80.3% utilization at the health center. We're dispensing on average 235 medications a month to the members that are accessing the health center.
80.3% of the whole, of 712?
No, our utilization is
Right.
80%.
Utilization of people who have been, like, out of how many people?
Oh, on here, I don't have unique. I could run a report to tell you what our unique patient visits are.
You're just saying 88% of the time slots?
Right, it's capacity.
Okay.
So this
Okay,
is.
that's what I was trying to figure out.
Sorry,
You're
it's a capacity measure. So basically, 80% of the slots that are available during the month are utilized. Which is good. I know it's from here, rural county, we've got folks that are, far away. But 80% is very good. So, any questions on?
Okay, so just for clarification, you threw out 24% increase. What does that translate into dollars per employee per month?
Well, actually, this is the part that we hadn't discussed with the board yet. Is the board gonna say we want the employee to pick up 100% of the increase? Then, we have those numbers. Are they gonna say they want to share the cost of the increase? At some percentage point? That would be significant less on the employee, But that's what I was trying to tell Ms. Ward earlier. Those are things that we haven't had the opportunity to discuss with the board yet in the direction that they want to go. Now, we do have, and I think, Ms. Wade, you have the numbers that if the employee is going to pick up the full cost.
Well, I guess clarification, either we're gonna pay it or you're gonna pay it or we're gonna share it. So either way, like, what does that 24% increase look like, dollar amount? Either we're paying or you're paying or we share it. So what does that look like, just in general? In
If it
general.
was employee only, right now the employee's not paying anything, the board's picking up 100% of that. If we were looking at 24%, it would be $82, roughly $82 a paycheck, so $164 a month. But remember, that's 9 months out of the year, not 12 months. So you kind of have to figure that out.
Which month is it, which month is it not?
June, July, and August, we don't take
Oh,
out
so
the
not-
benefits
so it
for
comes
summer
out,
months, because
gotcha.
your teachers and aides are not working.
I just didn't, because we had a 10 month, so I didn't know which part.
Yeah, you don't get anything taken out of your paycheck June, July, and August for insurance.
I just have, for the board, I mean, this is respectfully. I realize you guys contribute a lot of money for insurance for us. I mean, it appeared that it was around $6,000 per employee.
$6,100 a year.
Per year, which is, I mean, a significant cost no matter who's paying it. My concern is a group plan, or at least the way I understand it, and maybe I'm not understanding correctly, is supposed to be less costly for people. And I feel like with the amount you contribute, we could actually take your contribution and go find a plan that covers much more for a significantly less amount privately. And that may be totally off, base of what we're talking about here. But just to put that in your mind, I mean, it seems like this is a lot of money going into a plan, and it's not even an option for us to go get a private plan with the amount of dollars that you contribute per employee. I don't know, this just seems like a lot of money.
For people that are healthy, that would be a good option.
Right.
For people who are sick already.
Right.
And they have pre-existing conditions, they would have a problem.
Right.
So,
I just know in the past, many years ago, it was an option that the board would allow employees to purchase their own insurance. I didn't know if that would ever be considered again, since the cost seems to be going up every year. That's just, I
get your thought, and I understand what you're saying, but being without insurance is not an option anymore. I mean, you're gonna have to have insurance, whether you pay for it, we pay for it, or whatever. But, so you have to have insurance. Now, the option was if you have health insurance through a spouse or another plan, then board insurance. And I think that changed in 2004, where you had a smorgasbord of things you could put that money into.
Right.
And I think in 2004 is when the board did away with that option. So it's been 15 years, 10 years ago. But I think what Mr. Clemens said is the point, is that young, healthy people, particularly males that's not going to get pregnant or whatever, that would certainly be a great option for them. But then you reduce the amount of money coming into the system, which creates more of a burden upon those that have health issues or health problems. And thereby those people are double women. And
Right.
it's just things that need to be considered.
Right. Have we ever looked at other insurance companies other than Florida Blue?
We have, and we're in a rural district, so our providers are much smaller. Florida Blue is the biggest provider. And if you look at Florida Blue compared to somebody else as far as discounts, I think we looked at one claim, in fact, they had billed $730,000. Florida Blue paid out $102,000. So the discounts you're not going to get with another provider. If we went to even tried another carrier, we would all have to change doctors. It would be, unfortunately, we're in a small rural district, so we don't have the options that a larger city would have.
Yeah, please don't, this is respectful, I'm not in the insurance world. I just know what I privately pay for my children, because my children have private insurance, and I know that their coverage is so great for such a lower amount of dollars. I know they're children, I know it's different for children, but, they told me what my plan would cost if I accepted that plan as an adult, and I just, that's the number I'm comparing our numbers
Was that
to.
through
if that
the
makes sense.
exchange? Was that through the exchanges?
You mean the marketplace? Well, my children haven't, I had to apply through the marketplace because I opted out of Florida Kid Care because I was a full pay Florida Kid Care, and my insurance premiums were gonna go up to over $1,000 per month for my children. And so they opened up the marketplace for special enrollment. Long story short, I paid $205 per child, and I have 4 children. So I'm paying out a lot for insurance, but it's an all co-pay plan, no deductible, so it's a good plan for that amount of money. So I guess I've seen what's available privately, and that's what's driving my questioning is we pay so much for a group plan,
And I've done my own research, and I did not get those rates. My rates were much higher than that, and the increases every year have been in the neighborhood of 25%. So it depends on each person, and you start to go outside of larger plans.
And unfortunately, I've heard that from quite a few people on Florida Kid Care. Their rates have doubled and tripled in certain circumstances this year.
I emailed you that,
Yeah. So, and then I've also heard from people who do have bought insurance on the exchange. First year's great. Second year, it's doubled or tripled.
Right.
So that's.
Right. So we'll see.
Is there anything we could do as a group to encourage more participation with younger and just in my case, I got 1 child and the insurance is ridiculous for 1 child. Wonderful if you got 5, and I understand that, but is there a way the Florida Blue does not offer breaks? I think we're gonna have more participation of younger people.
With the plan, we only have 1 plan. And so, a couple of years ago, I think there were a couple of different plans. We went, and Mr. Clemens might have a little more information on this, but we went to 1 plan so we could track our revenue. And within that plan, there's not provisions for 1 child or 2
My thought
children.
process was just you might get younger people more paying in with less claims.
So you're right,
What we have with our plan is adverse selection. We've got older people who are sick, who don't have children. That's who's in our plan. Somehow we wiggled our way into that position, and I don't know how to turn it around, but then you can do exactly what Reed
I
said.
think we had another question up here.
I can wait. I was just gonna say, on a positive note, I'm new to Levy County. I worked in Brevard County last year, and I had much better insurance rates for a family. But after coming tonight, understanding why there's even a proposed increase in rates, I can leave here knowing that regardless of what's decided as the board, there's an explanation. And not everybody's gonna read the email, and not everybody's gonna come to the meeting if you open that up. But for the people that will, I think whatever you decide is important, that you have a meeting that everyone's invited to. You send the email, maybe try multiple methods to get the point across of this is what happened from last year to this year, and this is why we're even discussing this. But my fear is, with the rates increasing, if you have those 91 people that are accounting for 2.3 million, if I remember correctly, and you have 500 people that can't afford it, then what are we gonna do? Because it's scary. I have 3 children. I have 3 children. And the reason that I had them enrolled in our plan up until the very last minute that I could tell Kaylee, I can't have them enrolled because of the deductible. There's no way that I can pay $500 a month, which would help our revenue, and still have to pay that much out of pocket per child plus myself. So if there's something we can do to help those family rates and those children rates, maybe we can increase revenue there. Just a thought. And a positive. I came here just to understand.
We want to be informed.
Thank you.
Well, and to throw out, I mean, a lot of our employees make a lot less if we have a lot of support staff, a lot of food service, a lot of maintenance, that $164 would cripple them. You know, it's a little more bearable on a teacher's salary, even though it's still a hard hit. But for those people that make $10,000 a year, I mean, that's almost 17% of their income.
You were in Brevard County
Yes, sir.
for the school system down
Yes.
there? What did you pay for your insurance?
For my family, I paid $300 every other week. So I paid what I would pay for one paycheck for the month for my family. But that was over 12 months also. So I did take that into consideration.
And what does the board contribute towards it?
I don't know, and that was something that we had discussed comparing those two. We also didn't have a care here facility, but it also was in a rural county. So we had lots of urgent cares, and we had partnerships with those where you could go to the urgent care for $10 or $15. So, I mean, it's hard to compare apples and oranges, but the reason for bringing that up was if it was affordable to have family insurance, that was my intention. But it's just not affordable.
You know, if for those that are on 12-month salaries, if we spread it out over a 12-month period, it would become more affordable, or at least not be such a shock.
Yeah.
But that doesn't help the 10-month employees, those that really need. Go ahead.
I'm gonna call on David, but I wanted to share, I get it. I have my whole family on it. So it hurts, it really does, but my husband's self-employed, so we don't have many options. So, but David.
I was just gonna say, sort of for historical background, there's a lot of people in this room that recall this, but when we were in these meetings a year and a half ago and been talking about the concept of going with care here, what we had looked at was a 15-year trend by my math that added up to between 12 and 15% per year. So on an annual basis, Blue Cross was sticking us with increases of at least 12%, you know, in that 12 to 15% range. Some years they were 20%, some years it was only 8%. But this is before Obamacare, before any of these changes, going back to the early 2000s. It was just like clockwork that Blue Cross is coming back to us with that kind of increase. So the idea with care here is we were going to bend that cost curve. I remember you making that presentation. We'd get more people participating. We wouldn't have people racking up $45,000 or $60,000 bills in an inpatient situation because they would have gotten their diabetes under control. They would have avoided the heart attack or the stroke, or you know, all of those kinds of things. So I still think a big component of this is if we can drive more people to care here and get more of that treatment done, that's gonna help us out for the long run, because the option of jumping out of what we were doing and going, running back to the arms of Blue Cross, that was not a place that we felt like we could sustain.
Actually, if you recall, this last year before we went, they suggested a 33%.
Yeah, right. That was what I was gonna reiterate what David was saying. We, as being on the insurance committee, and sadly being an insurance man, which means I'm one not your vote car salesman. If we were to look back at the trend of the trend that Blue Cross was painting, we'd be in worse shape than we are right now. It would be significant. I tell you that. I also say I'm like Kaylee Wade. I am self-employed. My whole family is on this plan. School board members don't make a whole lot of money, contrary to popular belief. I may wind up having to pay to be a school board member because my family is on that plan. What I run into, and I don't mind people knowing this about us, between what the insurance costs and my copays, because I have a child that is a special needs child that requires very special medicine, requires a whole 9 yards. I have to pay out between insurance and copays salary of about a teacher every year when you mix the two together. I will never make that decision, no, we're not going to pay that, because my little boy has to have that. There is no choice. So I say, I appreciate it. We are stuck between a rock and a very hard place, and it ain't getting no better. The Obamacare did not help the working people that are in this room, okay? What we have to do, and I'm telling this to y'all, I'm telling this to my fellow school board members, everybody here, we got to work together. That side can't afford it, we can't afford it, we got to work together. That's the only way we're going to get through this. And the care center has been wonderful. As an insurance man, I look at this stuff much differently than normal people. When he's up here talking, here are some big things I noticed. You will notice I asked about the question on the inpatient facilities and the increase on that. You can't foresee that happening. You never know when somebody's going to have a bad accident. You never know when that heart attack's going to hit or that cancer's going to get you. But with the care center in place, I am confident that number is lower than it would have been because we are doing preventive stuff. The second part, my child calling me won't know when I'm home. The second thing that stuck out in my mind, the average age of our participant is 51. If our average age was 34, it would not be that bad. Now, we can't get any younger and we can't run people off when they get older. I'm just speaking frankly. We got what we got. Now we got to work together to get through it. We were told in the beginning, we're going to have some growing pains. But the growing pain we got right now is not the growing pain that we would have had if we had self-funded and we hadn't had that care center in there. Now, I say this to you, and I'm expecting your cooperation on this. Let's work together. Okay? Let's don't argue. Let's don't fuss and fight. Let's figure out how we can divide up what little bit of a pie we got to afford this. If for no other reason than for the person you talk about, somebody making $10,000 a year, somebody making $15,000 a year, we got to figure out a way. And that's all I got. Thank you for your time.
I just want to mention in the last 2 weeks, I've had 2 HR departments call my office asking what rates we pay, what the increases are, because they're getting hit very hard with increases. Want to know the total amount that we pay per employee, how we pay for families. And so we're not the only district right now in this mode. Every district is facing this because of the rising costs.
Absolutely.
Claims.
Absolutely. Not even an insurance man, I'm a tax preparer. People come in my office every year at tax time and are freaking out about what health insurance is going to cost them. And the very ones that thought Obamacare was going to be a great thing is now biting us all. Because it eliminated pre-existing conditions. Before underwriting came into effect with health insurance, and they said, oh, well, you got whatever, we can't write it. Now they got to write it. Now you got to take on that risk. So it drove all that up. And guess who's paying for it? That's where we're at.
Well, and on top of it, we didn't even show this, but with the new Affordable Health Care Act, the school board, on top of the revenue that we bring in, we have to pay 2 different fees a year per employee. One of them, I think, is about $1,200, and then the other one's about $65,000 to $70,000. Yeah.
It runs, we pay into Obamacare, even though we are not tied to Obamacare, we have to pay a fee to them of $70,000 a year.
And they say it's gonna go away, but I think we all know it's not going away.
Can you repeat what that was per employee and just fees?
In fees, I don't remember off the top of my head, it's 208 on one of them.
There's two fees that are supposed to be 3-year programs, which we're in the second year of it, so it's yet to see if it goes away.
One of the, I know that the total, the ballpark figure, one of them is around 18,000 that we pay, the other one's supposed to be 50,000. So together, we pay about 70,000 a year in Obamacare fees.
And is that taken into consideration in the total cost per employee?
No, that comes out of just the general
Okay.
fund.
No, it comes out.
It does come out here.
Yeah,
It does?
It
Okay.
The key thing you mentioned about with Obamacare and there's a slew of mandates that the plans had to adhere to. Some of them are good, but the issue is who's how do we pay for it? Who's paying for it, right? It's like the out-of-pocket maximums. A couple of years ago, before 2010, out-of-pocket maximums. If you spent $15 copay or you had copays, that didn't accumulate in the out-of-pocket max, right? Now everything that the plan does now accumulates to an out-of-pocket maximum. The other thing to take into consideration is the cost of claims because of Obamacare. Okay, so Blue Cross, United, Aetna, all the we call them BUCAs, they all are participating in the exchanges, federal run exchanges and state run exchanges. Okay, so they have agreed to accept lower fees for reimbursements because the government's now paying for these claims, right? So, depending on what you read out there, there are a lot of studies, Milliman, Mercer, a lot of big, like Aon, these big consulting firms that and you read that shift for the carriers, for them accepting these dollars, is going to shift to the retail side in terms of renegotiating hospital contracts, renegotiating all these facility in inpatient, outpatient, and not only are we having more utilization, but the cost of it is also going up. So that's another battle that we have to fight against.
It's 8:30 and we can stay till midnight and answer all your questions. But if we've pretty much covered for tonight, we can move on. But I don't want to stop anybody.
I'm gonna lead y'all. Board members, are you comfortable with the information that you've been given, or do you have any additional questions? Because we anticipate voting on these recommendations at our next meeting. So, have that information. I presume we're gonna be presenting back to us.
Yes, sir. And we will, in executive session after this meeting, discuss some of the options y'all may want to think about.
So, everything said and done from this end. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you,
sir. Kaylee, appreciate
And
you.
again, if you have questions or just,
Call
get a hold of me.
Yeah, call Kaylee.
Mr. Chairman,
I want to be sure to be here for this. I'm going to the car.
Yeah, that's not good, is it? That's not good.
Thank you.
Okay, since we have two board members that are doing and other people leave. By the way, thank you, ladies, gentlemen, for your attendance this evening. We're gonna take another short break till, everybody can get out, and we got one more minute to As soon as Ms. Rivers sits down, we'll get started back.
Looks like there's some.
Okay, request for public hearing, item I.
Mr. Chairman, members of the
board, if you remember sometime back, a few months back, we had a discussion board policy update, and that we had a request from our guidance counselors to revisit our policy on credit control. And you should have received a copy in your packet of board policy 5.03 and board policy 4.03. And these are, what we're asking tonight is to get permission to advertise these two policies. You can see the proposed language, and basically the reason for this language is that if the student takes and goes outside the district, if they get a F or gets credit held outside the district, then that F gets changed into a number and they can come back inside the district. So basically what we're trying to do is change the credit appeal policy to where a student can say number graded F, because you can add average.
Numerical grade of
59.
okay. So they would come back to us, and there would be a 59 in their grade sheet, correct?
For example, our regression plan right now says that if student transfers into the F, we change that F to 59. And that's what it's
Regardless of that F may have been a 12. We're going to accept the 59. Okay.
And this is further discussion, but that's essentially what this says. I can spend as much time on.
So that, these questions, I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Anderson, but these questions could be answered at the public hearing. Okay, so, I presume we need a motion.
To advertise, right?
Yes, ma'am.
I make the motion we advertise policy
Have a motion.
4.03.
Have a motion, and you include both of those?
4.03 and 5.03.
Not what I meant.
Okay.
And just for clarification, these policies affect the comprehensive student progression plan, which are driven from these policies. So if you make changes to these and 28 days later, we'll make appropriate changes to the pupil progression plan.
That will not have to come back before the board.
Well, change will, but it doesn't have to be advertised.
Okay. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those like sign, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Evans. Okay, I. Okay.
5-year work plan?
Yes, sir.
Every year this time, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we must update our 5-year work plan. And this is a pretty significant update that we've done. As you know, that we're in right in almost about the mid-year time of the special facilities project working through Wilson High School. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But I'm going to just highlight two things that are on here. And Mr. Clemens can tell you what the numbers mean, but I'll tell you what the words mean. And on page 7 of your docket, we are seeking to build 2 covered playgrounds. So these do not have to be DOE approved, because these are not buildings that's going to have to house kids. These are structures.
And where are these anticipated?
One at Boston Elementary School, and one at Wilson Elementary School. And you can see the approximated cost down there, $85,000.
Is there a covered one in Chief?
Back at Chief Elementary School, the gym or the cafeteria, there is a covered play area there.
There's a walk area, you know, in between those 12 portables, and it's covered, and it's not a great play area, but it's a place they can get out of the rain and sun and go to and do some activities.
And what is it because of, excuse me, Superintendent, but it's because of lack of funding that we're looking at this time that we're not considering? Either an upgrade or?
Well, I'm trying to get the most need positions done. And to go along with that, y'all remember when we were given the lot behind the cafeteria, a cedar key, and it's out there like in a swamp. You had to build a walkway to there, and it's little on the other side, and it's landlocked in between there.
Yeah.
Anyway, a gentleman from Quincy, Florida come down, he bought the first lot that has a little old mobile home on it for $90,000. And now, if somebody would have offered me $20,000 for that, our lot, I would have been tickled to death. But when he paid $90,000 for that first lot, then he offered $60,000 for our lot when we started negotiating, and I told him $75,000. would have, right? And he came to 70,000, and I sold it. And, so I've got $70,000 from a free gift that I want to apply for this, these two structures. So that's where part of the money comes from. Wilson Elementary's been trying to raise a little money. They don't have much. They got 10, 11,000, something like that. But we'll take that money and apply to it too. So I'm trying to save general fund money, trying to get the most needed, and try to use what I have available to me to get it done.
And without me having to look it up, Mr. Edison, what's the cost of those two?
85 each.
85 each.
About 85,000.
And those aren't firm prices because they're two different size structures, and we haven't even put it out for bid yet. We want to bring it to your attention first before we try to get firm bids on the size of what we're going to do. But we intend to build them over the asphalt play area that they have now. And so we're not going to like come in with concrete. No, we might have to resurface that asphalt a little bit, but that's minimal there.
Need a action?
I got one more item we can point out.
On the district plan?
This is on page 10 and 15. As I said, we are in the middle of a special facility project. It's going to take us, we've got a little over a year and a half more on the project. And then it's going to take us a little while.
That page got skipped.
Yeah, I got 9, 11, I missed it.
We've got that
It's on the map, Shannon, you know, these are.
Ours on.
Do you have colored copy or do you have?
But we have all the others.
Look at the one that's signed. There's also one on the list.
I don't see that. If find another, Ms. Brookings and I will share this one.
It should be.
There you go.
Stack papers.
Ms. Brookings and I, those guys.
Comments.
All right.
My bad.
My copy was covered.
You don't have any in there.
It's the same document, but somehow those pages are left out.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Our intention is to start the process, because it is a multi-year process of putting together a plan and in place to go to replacement of the high school.
What?
I didn't hear that.
You,
I really did.
We need to
work, we want to put together like a special facilities project and a plan to go to replacement Chief and Middle High School. But it's going to take some time to get there, just like it did. It took us about probably 4 years to get most of the high school project. So that's it, so I just need your approval of the work plan.
You said that somewhere on page 10 when we were looking at that?
Yes, sir, back down at the bottom where it says infrastructure tracking.
Okay, I get it. That would be inside the 5-year plan.
Well, you have to start with the process, start talking about it. There's nothing been DOE approved or anything else, but there's a lot of work that has to be done to get there.
we have to approve things 5 years out.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes,
So it is inclusive in the 5-year plan?
Yes.
Process.
And you do the 5-year plan every year, by the way. So,
just move it down.
You move it
So it's
ahead.
really 1-year plan, 5 years out?
right.
And not only that, but
Yeah, that
everything
goes
that's
on
on
4
there, you
years.
don't have to do, but you can't do it unless it's on.
That's right.
Right.
Can't do it unless it's there.
Okay, Chair seeks a motion.
I make a
One
motion
way or
to
the
be
other.
approved.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of the 5-year plan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign, motion does carry. Okay, Mr. Pam, do you have any? No, we still got one more thing with Mr. Edison, though.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Edison?
All right, Mr. Etheridge. Yeah, this is the important part. Mr. Etheridge and I, we met with the team from Wilson Middle and Wilson high school to pick out colors, and we need to get your approval on the color for the stucco, that portion that's going to be on Wilson Middle High School. You'll see the samples that they look at, and these are the two that they chose. This will be the base color, and I want to call it the highlight color in certain places. And this will be on the raised portion, which will be on the tower and on the back side of the school.
Nice.
And it's, I got them labeled here, so.
Are those the two that the group committee recommended?
Yes, sir.
The 1 hour meeting lasted 5 or 6, but yes, there was a lot.
A lot of people have different
Well, I mean,
opinions.
the group took it hard. I mean, it's pretty important. It's going to be a staple.
One of the other things that they did is they're laying the groundwork for the interior colors. And that's where a lot of the conversation happened, looking at this and that and putting together tile samples and carpet samples. And the architect is going to put together a board of 3 to 5 different things. And the group will meet together to make a selection on that, and that'll come to you probably within 2 to 3 weeks.
And we need action on this, right?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Etheridge, would you?
Yes, sir. I'll move the committee's recommendation.
Second. Okay, have a motion and a second to approve, accept the committee's recommendation. The stucco colors.
Is there not?
Yeah, there's 2 numbers on here if you want to use those as pen.
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
And just if you would like to see where we're at with the school real quick, I got some
Absolutely.
slides.
Yes, sir.
I think I do. They just finished, all of the slabs now are poured.
Come back, woman. Lisa.
That's it right there.
Oh, okay. I saw that on buildings on the first one.
It'll be back, it'll come. That's the gymnasium, and they just poured it. So all of the slabs are poured. There's a little bit more concrete to be poured, but all of the main building slabs are poured.
Before you go on, one question that one of the committee meetings I attended, they was talking about when they were pouring the blocks. I think Mr. Tanner even brought it up to begin with, and then we had discussion. And I know I specifically asked to make sure it was followed up on. Can you enlighten me as to if it's being followed up? Remember, he said if those things were not poured completely, the block, you still have a chance of the mold and mildew.
Yeah, and you can, when you go out there, you can see, Mr. Hester made the comment about why are they, why are they cutting this, they're leaving voids down there so that you can see where it's all.
That it does, okay. I know that was brought out as a pretty major concern. They know that, hey, 3 or 4 years down the road, all of a sudden kids are getting sick, teachers are getting sick, that there's mold and there's mildew because the blocks weren't poured full of the cement. Okay, thank you. Thank you for looking at that also, Mr. Evans.
And this is at the same corner right there, at the gymnasium, turn around looking back, and that's the middle school wing in the foreground. And in the background, you'll see the administration media wing, and that's the building with the rafters that does not have anything on it. And on the right-hand side, that's the music suite and the cafeteria background light. And they should start, I think, next week, actually putting the final metal down on the roofs, no matter the final that color that you selected here last week, that'll be going down next week. And this is the interior of the music suite. As you can see, they're going up with the metal studs on the inside. And you can see here, it's another picture, you can see where they're putting in the ductwork and everything going in for the inside of the building. And this is looking at, this is from this music suite, and I'm actually standing on the stage looking back at the, looking south at the cafeteria. And on the, this will be stucco on this wall here, but there's insulation being applied on that wall. And this is looking at the media center. This is the south side and the back side of administration. And this is on the inside looking back the other direction. So that's the media center right there. You're looking here, this is a view from the vocational wing looking west. You can see the cafeteria on the right, on the left-hand side, you can see the middle school ag building. And this is the inside of the middle school ag building. You might recognize these two rascals in there, I found them. So, Mr. Randolph and Mr. Wise, Mr. Rod with me that day. And that's there, Mr. Randolph and Ms. Wise inspecting the vocational wing. This is the backside of the vocational wing looking north. And this is this will be the northeast corner vocational wing looking back south. So you can see they're going up with the exterior wall there. This is that same corner looking back towards the administration wing. The crane there is hoisting steel for the trusses. That's it. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Anytime y'all want to go out there, I mean, y'all are free to go anytime you want to go. All you just have to go is the first trailer on the right. Go inside there and see Jim Purry. He'll have a green hard hat for you. If you're walking the road time, if you want me to go with you, just superintendent, just let us know. We're breezy. So I'm generally out there 2 or 3 times a week. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Item L, suspend the effort changes to the minutes of the September 22nd meeting. Okay, here seeking motion. Second. Motion and a second for the approval of the minutes as presented or as printed. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. I did it here. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion carries. Consent agenda. Ms. Brookins, do you have any questions?
I have had all my questions answered. Thank you very much for asking.
We took up all that time. Okay, Mr. Coward?
My question's been answered, so I sought out our principal in Cedar Key about getting our coaches a little more timely on getting their trips in, so we don't have trips that are already passed out by.
Mr. Evans, I think I'm good. Chair has no questions at this time.
I do have an addition.
Okay, I'm sorry, Ms. Van, no. Superintendent got me in such a hurry, he keeps kicking me under the table.
Okay, this one should be on the addition to, and it'll be on the addition of that Allenville area. It's for Cedar Key employee Andre Jacobs.
And this is, where would this
It'll
be?
be on the addition to, y'all don't have it, but I got it in kind of late, so, but I need to read it because they've got to get this done this week. So it's Cedar Key employee Andre Jacobs, certified in PE K through 12, out of field and HOPE. So that'll be added.
All right, you will, okay.
Nothing else, everything else is.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am, for that information. Chair is seeking a motion.
Make a motion to approve the changes.
Second. I have a motion and a second for approval with the consent agenda with the addition. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion carries. Mr. Superintendent.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to read a statement from, we were just audited on our bullying policies and so forth. And this comes from a lady named Kim Ward who came down, and Mr. Edison had that under his direction, and he's one that facilitated that. And I'd just like to read one comment she made. And this about the on-site bullying audit. She says, good afternoon, Jeff. I would like to thank you for a truly enjoyable visit to the school board of Levy County. Although I was there to take a serious look at your efforts and practices in place for ensuring compliance with Florida bullying law, I walked away feeling like part of the family. The atmosphere both at the district and school levels was one that promoted a positive and supportive environment and strong relationship building with students and parents. You certainly have a district to be proud of. And I think that's pretty good from a state auditor to commend us like that. So Good job, everybody.
Maya asked, she was mighty impressed with the lunch that we had at the other table.
I'm sure maybe I missed it.
That always helps.
She likes fried chicken.
At your table, we did, Pam put together a visit for our morning meetings for the school year. You may notice on there that Cedar Key is not listed, and if you can figure out how we can get that included, we'd be glad to include it. But we certainly have missed Yankeetown last couple of years, and want to make it a priority.
Thank you.
And, you know, we could go during the closed school days of Thanksgiving, Christmas, but I don't think that'll do much good. So other than that, it's a pretty full schedule. You know, I mean, as we get through this, if we want to put it in on April 26th, we can always bring it back up and order to see where we're at, okay? I just want to bring that to your attention.
Thank you.
Sure. One of the big things that, you know, is before us right now is the test scores and school grades, and that took up our FADS meeting, our 3-day FADS meeting. We spent a lot of time on it. Miss Pam Stewart, who I have the world of respect for, she's the best commissioner we've had in my years being here. And while she's wonderful, that position is impossible to do because she has to answer to the legislature, she answers to the governor, she answers to the DOE, she answers to the State Board of Education. And so, and then the superintendents are always have their needs and wants and opinions. So it's a really big circus there. In fact, the whole meeting, if we'd had 2 more clowns, we'd had a full circus there. But anyway, we were busy with that, and she talked to us for an hour and a half trying to get the superintendents on her side to put together a big, good face for the FSA and, you know, what it could do and what it could accomplish. After she got through, the superintendents all said, we have worked with DOE since 2011 on all these changes. 2011-12, they threw 34 changes at one time that we were supposed to, or mandated to institute. And most of them without the proper funding. And we tried to tell them since 2011, you can't throw that many changes on a school system and teachers and students and the parents, and it'll be successful. You've got to slow down. And you got to build this thing 5 at a time, not 34 at one time. And it fell on deaf ears. And since 2011, DOE has not paid attention to superintendents whatsoever. And they just go on with what it is. So at the end of that meeting, or her part of the meeting, we had another half day that day and all day Friday. Everybody said, we're through. We're not working with DOE anymore. We're calling it like it is. We're putting out the message that they are not listening to what's good for students and what's good for teachers in schools. And whether you want to talk about the test scores and giving school grades, or you want to talk about teacher evaluation, performance pay, all of it, you got to slow down and take one step at a time. This year, the first year, this past year, where we gave the FSA totally new, not even, you know, tested in Florida whatsoever. And that needs to be a baseline year where we can get a baseline of what it is and then move forward from there. We're not saying do away with accountability or do away with standards. We want accountability, we want standards, but we want them to be fair and equitable to the students and to our faculties and staff in the school system. That's what we're saying. And of course, the Alachua County Superintendent's been very bold out front. and he was on a committee for the testing, and he resigned his position because he said they just don't pay attention to us. And so, while we've been telling them since 2011 to slow this train down and get it right, instead of rushing through it, you know, but that's the standard. I sent y'all out at Justice Facts this morning, and I sent it to all of our faculty and the newspapers, and I don't know if they'll print it or not. They don't print a lot of stuff I sent to them, but I'm trying to get the word out because you'll recall 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when they changed the Florida rights, and it went from 2 graders to 1 score person, and the scores went down by 20, 25 points. Parents went nuts. And when the parents went nuts, they got the legislature's attention, who got DOE attention, and all that changed. Until the parents stand up and say, this is not fair, it's not going to make any difference what superintendents say. They're used to us, they say we whine all the time, you know, they just don't want accountability, which is not true. That's the reason for this letter. But anyway, we got to get the public and the parents on board and get them to understand. I'm going to go one step further, and Mr. Edison and I have talked about this, and I've been saying this for years. There's a war against public schools, and the legislature wants to figure out ways that they can send state taxpayer dollars to private schools, to charter schools, to virtual schools. Last year, there was even a bill to pay homeschool students to stay home and the parent. So they're taking $7,000 per child, giving it to that parent, and say, you educate your child. Now, that bill didn't pass last year, but it's coming back. It's going to come back up. So this war on public education, to get it dispersed and done differently, and this is one way, is to show the public schools are failures. If we can get their test scores down and grades down, we can show that the public schools are failures. They're not doing their job. We got to have charter schools. We got to have virtual schools. We got to send the money to private schools. Not that they have any studies showing those places do any better, but that is the game plan. Now, they're not going to say that. They're going to say we want to raise standards and we want to raise rigor and relevance and all. They're saying the proper things, but I believe there's a hidden motive there. Now, not only that, but I think they're trying to choke us out in another way. And this, like I said, Ms. Vest and I discussed this, but we have a very hard time hiring teachers anymore. We still got 2 openings in Yankeetown. We can't even hire a teacher. And we got another teacher today that told me he was going to resign, or sent word to me that he was resigning. To hire teachers, it's so bad until I hired a couple of teachers that Dixon County fired. Now that's bad. And don't say that in public. Turn that. We'll talk about that. But that's okay. But I'm just trying to illustrate how difficult it is to hire certified teachers. And to hire administrators is almost impossible. We just cannot find people that want to be principals anymore. And a lot of it's how the money's tied up. You take a teacher, we got one right now where we took a teacher, been in the system 15 years, and she's making $52,000 a year on 11-month program, so she's making about 57 in guidance counseling. And ask her to be an assistant principal and work 12 months and have all these other responsibilities and also do night duties 3 nights a year and pay her the same salary that she was getting as 11 months. Who wants to do that, you know? So if they can cut off the bloodline to the teaching profession, then they can cut us off. And University of Florida this last year, they graduated 6 teachers that teach English, that want to teach English. They graduated 3 that wanted to teach science. Now, St. Leo's and different other smaller colleges, they put out more. But still, when you got 50,000 students going to the University of Florida, and they're putting out 6 English teachers a year, that's not going to get it when we've got 90,000 teachers in the state of Florida. Anyway.
Can I expound on something you said, Tracy?
Yes.
The reason a while ago Ms. Pam added that about the oath, all that is about FTE and out of field. And if you don't come in, if we don't notify our children that somebody's going to be out of field, and if it doesn't come to you before the board, when the auditor comes in, we lose the FTE for that teacher. If you don't have a certified teacher in the classroom, a certified teacher of record in the classroom, you don't get the FTE.
This is FTE week.
Right.
This is our snapshot window week. And so if we didn't have that approved tonight, we would lose the funding for that teacher. He's certified PE, that's what he does, but he has a hope class, one which is like a family living class.
Personal fitness, all personal fitness classes.
Yeah, social. And that would have killed us right there.
And so that goes back to if you can't hire a teacher, then you can't put a certified person in the classroom, and you don't collect the revenue. And every school district around us can't hire teachers. They're Citrus County short, Marion County short, I'm sure lots with us.
Marion County, when they opened the school, was about 200 teachers short. It's getting tough to hire people.
Well, another area that they disguise guys in is school choice.
Yeah.
Is one of the reasons that they like to throw out there for pushing more of the money going to private schools, more money going to this. Oh, well, if we're going to allow school choice, we need to make sure they have good choices to go to. And I think I saw our liaison taking notes. Thank you, Chris.
Because you're going this week.
They give us a budget, and it looks wonderful, and they fully fund education, then they spend the rest of the year trying to see how they can take that money back.
So your time to start fretting is beginning about now, isn't it, Mr. Clemens? Already started, okay. Thank you, Superintendent. Any follow-up or comments or anything on what Superintendent?
Just very briefly on that topic, and keep it in mind that nobody at DOE can cite to any study or data or anything that what is in the FSA standards can actually be taught in the school year. So they put the standards on our backs, and we're held accountable in that testing. And there's no proof that you can actually cover that material in a school year.
Okay, moving right along then.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
DOE, how is that board made, the structure?
The governor appoints the board. And
So it's
then
political?
Yeah, it's political. Now, back 20 years ago, the Commission of Education was elected by the people. So who they answered to then was the people. And that's the way it should be. But now, the state board would tell Mr. You know who you work for us. And they're all very wealthy people, doctors, lawyers, so forth, live in Key Biscayne, and their kids are geniuses, and, you know, they're in private schools, and I don't know.
We have one member who's a former school board member from Highlands County, so it's Andy Tuck.
Andy Tuck.
One of the things that, Brad, that I've always said, and I'm curious to know, so my question is, how many of those people that serve on the Board of Education are publicly school-educated people? I don't even care if it is in the state of Florida, you went to public school. So, and the amount of them that send their kids to public school, I would venture to guess maybe one.
That'd be a good survey for you. So, okay, thank you. Both good questions, and thank you, Mr. Superintendent.
I get on that soapbox, and, you know, I'm sorry, but it's always on my mind.
Well, I think that's valuable information that we can leave this room with this evening, and food for thought, so to speak. Mr. Etheridge, since last week we started this end, we kind of flip-flop. Board comments.
Yes, sir. Just, when y'all saw the highlights, but I've learned the process, all this acronym, I need a dictionary to keep up with. I've had
Hear that, Dr. Winek?
Yeah, I've had an opportunity to visit every school now and talk to assistant principals and get the heartbeat, and I've started me a calendar. I've never had to do that in my life to keep up with what's going on in schools. We spent Friday from 9:30 till 2, between the high school and the new school. And I just would like to say that I think that school being built beforehand and not a brand new design, I think has lots of value, because when you really start digging into it with the engineer and all, a lot of those things have been worked out. I mean, for your main secretary to be sitting and be able to look down all the way down the middle school and the high school wing and the lockdown part of it and all, it's amazing the thought process that's been put into that school. So it's exciting. It was 2 weeks before that. We were there 2 weeks earlier, and Vocation Center was flat concrete, and we went back 2 weeks later, they had 80% of the walls up. So,
I went out there today and they had 100 masons, brick block layers out there working.
right, so that's about 30,000 a day. 300 block a piece, what I understand, about 30,000 block a day. Those guys are toting mud as fast as they can tote it, and they're just laying block.
There's no fat guys or old guys out.
Anyway, it seems to be going good.
Okay. Anything else?
No, sir, not, I don't want to share publicly.
Okay. You can't share it with any other board member,
I know.
it's going to be voted on, right?
Yes, sir.
David,
I agree.
I'm sorry, me and you, you have any words of wisdom or anything?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
Remind everybody, Seafood Festival is this weekend. Come on down for some grilled shrimp or burgers or whatever else that will be down there. So, this is weekend.
Beach feast.
And then the Beach Feast is
Go ahead.
coming up, and I'll let Mr. Turner address that. So, but the other thing is if there's any other concerns that you need to, on Thursday is the State Board Association, School Board Association Legislative Committee. So, and I'll be down there for that. That's in Clearwater, so feel free to. St. Pete, Clearwater, so across the street. So, it's at St. Pete College, actually, so where Glenn goes to school. But, so that's going on Thursday, and I'll be down there for that. And then Friday is long range planning for the state association. So, back as fast as I can get back, and before the burgers on Saturday. So.
Ms. Brookins?
I really, one more time, really appreciate Dr. Hall's presentation, and this year did make it special, those invitations, and I know, me personally, I definitely will make a point to be there and go visit those classrooms, and I love them, so it's great, thank you. And that's all I have.
Following through with, Mr. Collins, brought up Beach Feast. A couple of y'all have already, I think Breezy, you donated a auction item.
Yes, sir.
Yes, you did, and I know Mr. Etheridge was in the wrong place at the wrong time the other day, so he got hit up for one. And, Ms. Brookins, have you found the item? I'm talking about item for auction. But that'd be, or any door prizes that anyone else can come up with out there. That's, door prizes they go real well, and that could be a gathering table, door prizes, anything come out. And above that, please, if you're talking, this is, once again, the 24th, 5:30, beginning to east. I think the menu has been completed, and it looks pretty good. And it's out at the Etheridge Cracker House, same place it was last year. That was a good venue for it. And talk to people and get them to come. Appreciate it. I'm speaking on behalf of somebody else tonight, as you probably have figured out by now, but appreciate all the help and Thank you very, very much.
See me if you need tickets.
Yeah. You haven't sold yours either. Okay, anything else come before the board at this time? Anybody? Okay, hearing none, meeting is adjourned.